Oh, hi. So today we're gonna do the second how to play guitar lesson. We learned what the strings were and how to press down right above the fret and what basically makes up a guitar last time. Today we're gonna talk about notes and how to play them. Not just like where to put your finger and on what fret, but like what notes they are and what that means. So remember, it's E, A, D, G, B, E. That's the order from your top to the bottom of the guitar as you're holding it. Now there's two different ways that you can play a whole bunch of notes on this. You can go all the way up a string if you want to, although that's pretty intense. To go literally all the way up the string, you just got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This totally sounds jazzy. I'm just going up by half steps and half steps and half steps. Or you can go in between the strings. So you have E. Now the next half step up will be F. And then you have F sharp. Then you have G. Then you have G sharp, and then you have A, because after G, remember the musical alphabet starts over. At A, wait a minute, A was the next string, E, A, D. Yeah, A was the next string, so you don't have to keep going up. Instead of going to the 5th fret, you can actually just stop at the 4th fret. 1, 2, 3, 4, open, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the next note should be the next one. And it is. So you have open, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you can do it on every single string. Every single string you get up to the 4th fret and it leads you to the next string. However, there's one where that does not apply. And I don't know why guitars are tuned that way, but sure, it works. It's the 5th string is a little bit different. So you have that E, A, D, G, B. It's a B string. So to go from G to B is gonna be a little bit different than the other strings. So it's gonna have one less half step to get there because there just aren't as many notes between G and B as with the others. So you'll have open, 1, 2, 3, and then if you go to the 4th one, it's the same sound as the next string. So you don't have to go to the 4th one to get that sound. So everything, go up to 4th fret, then move over, unless it's the 4th string to the 5th string. Then you only go up to the 3rd fret. It's a lot. I know that that's a lot, but it's just something that we have to know as guitar players, you know? It's just that open, 1, 2, 3, open. So that's just the 4th string. To the 5th string. Okay, so that is how we get to the different notes. Now in order to make a scale, we have to know our scales and know when to do a half step, when to do a whole step. So to do a major scale, we have a whole step, a half step. So let's just get there. Whole, half. So you start from the beginning, move a whole step, move a whole step, move a half step. So let's start with just the bottom string, the bottom E. We have open, whole step, so that's 2 frets. Whole step, that's 2 frets. Half step. Now you can either go up 1 more fret, or you can just go to the open string, because we learned after the 4th fret, you can go to the open string. It's a half step up. To go from the 4th fret to the open string, unless it's that weird G to B, it's a half step up. Okay, so now we're gonna talk about scales on the guitar. Now we talked about scales before, and today we're just gonna work with a major scale. So you've got whole step, half step, whole step, half step. If we remember, so let's just start with C. C is the easiest one because we just go with whole letters, no sharps, no flats, all that. So you have C, to D, it's a whole step. Then D to E, that's a whole step. E to F, that's a half step. So you had start, whole step, half step. And then after F, you have G, that's a whole step, G to A, because after G, the alphabet starts over, whole step, A to B, whole step, B to C, half step. So you had start, whole step, half step, whole step, half step. So it's 1, 2, 3, half step, 1, 2, 3, half step. That's a great way to remember it. You play, or you have note, 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 half step, note, 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 half step. It starts with it with a whole, like with a regular one, you don't have to make any movement from there. You have a starting point. So I can't really call it a whole step, but you have whole, half, whole, half. Or start, whole, half, whole, half, which is a great way to remember it. Now, this doesn't have a C string, so we're just gonna talk about how to make the steps and not worry about the notes today, because I just want you to think about the two different ways that you can do a scale on the guitar. So we have that start, whole step, half step. Let's just work with that, because then there's the other half. Start, whole step, half step. So let's just work with the bottom string, the E string. So we have start, whole step, which is 2 frets, whole step, 2 frets, half step, which is 1 fret, and that's one way of playing that half of the scale. Start, E, whole step, half step. Now, we just learned that if you switch from the 4th fret to the next note, you can either go continuously up that one string, just fret by fret, or you can switch strings. So that half step, you can switch a string. So it's start, 2nd fret for the whole step, 4th fret for the whole step, and now you can move on to the next string, just play it open for the half step. And this works if you start on an open string, unless it's that G to B weird tuning up here, the 4th and 5th string. So that's why we're working with the bottom string. Again, baby steps, we're just gonna work with that and deal with what's weird later. So open, whole step, half step, and you can choose to either go bing or bing. Let me get up close so you guys can see that. So we have start, whole step, half step. I'm trying to move my fingers so you guys can see what I'm doing. One more time, but this time I'm going to switch strings. Start, whole step, half step, switch string, just to the next string. Okay, so we've gotten half of the scale. Let's get the other half. So we're here. Now we have whole step, half step. We are at the open string. Let's actually start, let's start with the open string, and then I'll show you how to go continuously up the fret. Start, E, whole step, half step. So we are here or at the open string, and we still have whole step, half step. That's what's left. Whole step, half step. So we're gonna start with, if you just wanted to go straight up the string, because that's a little bit easier to see like visibly on your fretboard. So you're here on the 5th fret. Now from there we have whole step, half step. So that's 2 frets, 1 fret. So we're here on the 5th fret. Now we move a whole step, which is 2 frets, a whole step, which is 2 frets, a whole step one more time, which is 2 frets, and a half step, 1 fret. And there's your octave. So you started at this note, which is the 4th note. Open, whole, half. Now we have whole step, whole step, half step. And that's the whole scale. Open, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. Straight up the string, let's try that together. All right, I'll move closer. We have open, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. All right, let's do that again. Open, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. All right, and that is a scale on one string. Now, let's try it if we were switching strings. So you had open, whole step, switch string. So you're here at the open A string. Then whole, 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 half. Whole step. Now from there, how do you get to the whole step? Because we're switching strings. The next string from the 4th to the 5th fret, that's only a half a step. So it's gonna get a little complicated. We have to go back to this 1st fret to get a whole step, because you switch strings, that's a half a step, and then you need one more half a step. And then half a step to finish it off. So I can show you here. You're here at the open string on count 4. Now you have whole step, 2 frets, whole step, 2 frets. Now a whole step, which includes switching the string and then going up 1. So you go to that 1st fret, and then a half step, and that's the scale. So start at count 4. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you have whole step, 2nd fret, whole step, 4th fret, whole step, next string, 1st fret, and then one more fret up to finish it off. So let's try that from the bottom. So we have whole, 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 half, whole, 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 half. Or open, whole, whole, half, open, whole, whole, half. Got it? So let's do that. So we have open, whole step, half step, switch string, whole step, whole step, 1st fret, half step, 2nd fret, and there's your scale. So let's do that again. I know, like the way I'm holding my fingers, it's really hard to see. Just count the frets, okay? I'm trying to like, hey, here, see what I'm doing. So maybe I'll just use my 1st finger this time just so you can see what fret I'm on. So we have whole, so open, whole step, 4th fret, whole step, open string, half step, 2nd fret, whole step, 4th fret, whole step, 1st fret, switch string, whole step, half step to finish it off. Okay? Now, the fingering pattern, which is what finger you use for which note, that I would suggest for that. And again, it will depend on how big your hands are versus how big the guitar is. I suggest doing open, 1st finger, 2nd fret, ring finger, 4th fret, open to switch strings, 1st finger, 2nd fret, ring finger, 4th fret, 1st finger, 1st fret, switch strings, 2nd finger, 2nd fret. So that is what I suggest. Let me do that a little bit closer. It just provides a little bit more fluidity as you go. So you have open, 1st finger, 4th finger, open, 1st finger, 4th finger, 1st finger, 1st fret, 2nd finger. I'm trying to let you see that. All right, so that is a scale. You can start on any string and it will be basically the same except that G to B string. How do you handle that? Count the frets. I'm not asking you to memorize, well, what finger goes where for which scale. Think about whole steps and half steps. Whole step, whole step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. That first whole step is the first note, so like there's no step there. So open, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. And you can start anywhere. You can start on a fret, so it doesn't have to be open. It could be, here's your starting note. So you have start, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. It works. Just count the frets. That's easy if you're going straight up, but if you're doing crossing strings, you just have to know which string you're on, because if you're on these fourth and fifth strings that have a little bit strange tuning, you're gonna have to compensate for that and go, so let's start on that weird one. E, A, D, G. So it's a G. Sometimes I forget. I play a lot of string instruments and they're all tuned differently, so I just kind of forget. But those acronyms are so helpful. E, A, D, G, B, E. Right? Let me know what your phrase for that is. I really, really want to know. So you have G, whole step. So you start, and then it's a whole step. Whole step. Now remember, that next string, I have my finger on the fourth fret. It's the same note. So now we have to deal with the fact that we have 1/2 step less to work with between those two strings. So if you're not switching strings, not a big deal. If you are, remember at the fourth fret, you would move to the next, at the third fret, you would actually move to the next string. So from G to B, it'll go open, whole step. Now to move a whole step, you just switch string. Half step, first fret. Whole step to switch string. Whole step, second fret, half step. So just play with it. Whole step, half step, whole step, half step, half step. I think I said that wrong. I think I like mouthed it wrong. I think I said whole step. But yeah, definitely play with that, okay? So work on some scales, practice whatever note you want to start with and see how it works. Remember, we've got that weird tuning over here. Mess around with it, see what happens. But yeah, that is the lesson for today. Thank you for making music with me.